Qiang Jin Jiu. Book 3, Drunk in Wild Songs. Chapter 195, Mastiffs. Gao Zhongxiang did not dare to ask any further and sat at the side, all prim and proper. The freezing cold had gotten to him quite badly on his way here. It was gradually getting better now as some sensation restored in his ears that had been frozen numb. Seeing as Gao Zhongxiang's robe was still his old one, Zhou Gui said, "It's bitterly cold in Tse province. Your robes are way too flimsy." Gao Zhongxiang looked a little embarrassed as he clenched the hem of his clothes and answered in a small, mosquito-like voice, "Yes, yes." Kong Ling could see that something was up. As someone in a yamen with limited funds, you're in a far worse position than the others with lucrative posts. Money that passes through your hands are all bits and pieces of silver. Moreover, you have only just arrived in Tse province, so it isn't easy for you to settle down in a whole new place. If there's anything you need, don't hesitate to bring it up. The show of concern put Gao Zhongxiang at ease. His eyes misted over and he hurriedly stood up. "You have all shown me utmost solicitude, and his lordship too, has treated me with such tremendous kindness." Zhou Gui immediately waved his hand. "Take a seat. There's no one else here tonight, there's no need to be so formal." Gao Zhongxiang had no wife, children, or relatives in Tse province. No one dared to let him pick up the tab during the usual yamen social functions either. By all logic, his monthly salary should have been sufficient. However, he dared not tell a soul that his money had all gone to finance Han Jin. Last autumn, Shen Zequan released Han Jin from prison and put him up at the side courtyard. Han Jin had a hard time in prison, and with adequate food practically guaranteed on his release, he ate and drank to his heart's content for quite an extended period of time. There were people in the courtyard taking care of his needs, and when he was back in good health, a young male servant even came over to play with him. The lad took him along to throw dice and hold cricket fights, keeping him so entertained he abandoned himself to pleasure. In less than 2 months, he forgot all about returning to Chu capital. Then he got addicted to gambling. Unable to remain in the courtyard, he started venturing outdoors with the lad, spending all his time drinking and having fun without a care in the world. But there was only so much monthly budget that Shen Zequan allocated to Han Jin. Since he could not stop himself from gambling, he had to think of a way to get money on his own. And so, he set his sights on Gao Zhongxiang again. He ran to Gao Zhongxiang's house almost every day, shouting "disloyal, turncoat slave" as loud and clear as he possibly could, and stood in Gao Zhongxiang's path, demanding money. Gao Zhongxiang could do nothing about him, and he was embarrassingly low on funds, so how would he still have the money to buy winter clothes? Inside the inner chamber, Shen Zequan's fingertips had already gone numb from being grasped by Xiao Chai, although he was as astute as ever as he listened to their conversation. The wind had picked up again at night, sending the cotton-like snow dancing all over the sky and the wind chimes under the eaves tinkling ceaselessly. Fearing that the din would disrupt the discussion within, Gu Jin, who had just returned from Biwen military drill grounds, called for someone to take them down. As he swept away the snow from his hair, he saw Fei Sheng walk over to him from the walkway. "Are you looking for the second master?" With medicine in hand, Fei Sheng motioned to the room with his chin. "He's resting. Master doesn't allow us to call for him. The journey has been hard on all of you. It's snowing so hard that just spurring on the horse alone is enough to be the death of me." Gu Jin had just gotten off his horse, and his ears had gone so numb from the biting cold wind that he could feel nothing in them. "Second master hasn't had a decent night's sleep for half a month running." Fei Sheng sighed. Gu Jin made way for him. "Go on ahead. Don't hold the prefectural lord up from taking his medicine." Before Fei Sheng entered the room, he said in a hushed tone, "I think everyone will be busy for quite a while, and there's no need for anyone to guard this place, too. When Chen Yang and Xiao Tianya come over later, go to the duty room with them for a break. I'll get someone to serve snacks and hot tea." Just make do with these first to fill your stomach. It was hard to say when Xiao Qiye would wake up, and when he did, he would no doubt want to discuss official business. They had been on the move for several days running, and they would not be able to withstand standing like a pole here under the eaves with the wind blowing this hard. This was indeed very thoughtful of Fei Sheng. The duty room was just a stone's throw away from the courtyard. They would be able to come over right away without any delay if they were called. Accepting his kindness, Gu Jing cupped his fists to say his thanks and held up the hanging screen for him. Shen Zequan did not let them light up the lamps, so Fei Sheng naturally did not carry one. He entered with the tray in his hands and ladled out the medicine into a porcelain bowl. They were still speaking softly in the outer room at a volume Shen Zequan could hear. Shen Zequan took the spoon with the hand he could move and drank it slowly. Fei Sheng tried his best not to make a sound, but Xiao Qiye still woke up. With brows furrowed, Xiao Qiye took a moment to orient himself before he sat up in one swift motion. His black shadow abruptly enveloped Shen Zequan, giving Fei Sheng a fright. Xiao Qiye was still drowsy from his sleep. After a moment of silence, he looked at Shen Zequan and asked in a hoarse voice, "What time is it now?" Shen Zequan set his spoon down and looked at Fei Sheng. "Second master, it should be the hour of high now," Fei Sheng answered. To Xiao Qiye's surprise, he had slept for almost 6 hours, and he was still holding onto Shen Zequan's hand. As he lowered his head, he rubbed his nape with his other hand and asked, "Is Gu Jin back?" Fei Sheng took Shen Zequan's medicine bowl and answered, "He just did. They are all currently in the duty room. If second master wants to call for them, I'll get someone to summon them." "Do it," Xiao Qiye said all at once. "Tell them to go over to the side hall. I'll be there in a while." Upon hearing the sound of talking in the inner chamber, those outside stopped conversing. Fei Sheng stepped out with the empty bowl, signaled to the various gentlemen with his eyes, and made his way out under the hanging screen to get someone to summon Chen Yang and the rest over. Shen Zequan moved his numbed fingers that had reddened from Xiao Qiye's grip. At the same time Xiao Qiye put on his outer robe. He asked, "Have you been sitting here all this while?" All Shen Zequan could feel in his mouth was the bitterness of the medicine. He was still thinking over the matters in Fan province, and so he half-heartedly replied, "Been sitting until my waist ached." Xiao Qiye poured himself a cup of cool tea and held it in his mouth as he dressed himself quickly. When he saw Shen Zequan stand up, he stood in Shen Zequan's path, refusing to let him leave. As Shen Zequan looked at him questioningly with raised eyebrows, Xiao Qiye pinched the latter's chin and fed him the tea, mouth to mouth, taking away that lingering bitterness. Shen Zequan was not tall enough to reach up to Xiao Qiye to begin with, and Xiao Qiye did not lower his head when he held Shen Zequan's chin, so Shen Zequan could only stand on tiptoe. Xiao Qiye led Shen Zequan into his arms, and Shen Zequan gripped Xiao Qiye's sleeves as Xiao Qiye created such havoc in his mouth that Shen Zequan felt weak all over. Unable to hold in the tea and sensing that it was about to spill, Shen Zequan had no choice but to swallow it down hastily, only to choke on it and burst out into fits of coughing. Those in the outer room had already drunk their fill of tea. Listening to the coughs, Zhou Gui was worried that Shen Zequan had caught another cold. He was about to voice his concern after a moment when Kong Ling interrupted him. "The ground heating system is making this room too warm. I'll push Yuan Zhou to the door to get some air." Yao Wenyu wrapped his overcoat around himself and said, "Then I shall have to trouble Mr. Cheng Feng." They whisked Zhou Gui outside and stood under the eaves for less than an instant's time when they saw Xiao Qiye lift the hanging screen and step out. The group bowed in obeisances and greeted, "Second master." Xiao Qiye's chin was red from being bumped against. Seeing as Chen Yang and the rest had arrived, he returned the greeting and said, "I've been busy on the road these few days and inadvertently ended up holding all of you back from your discussions. I'm truly sorry. Second master has been working day and night tirelessly on the battlegrounds. It's time you take a rest." They bowed once more to Xiao Qiye. Without further ado, Xiao Qiye stepped away and led his men over to the side hall. Zhou Gui felt cold standing in the same place. He swept a glance around the rest and asked in bafflement, "Shall we go in?" Yao Wenyu sighed softly at Zhou Gui, but he could not help but smile as he lifted his hand in a gesture and replied, "Let's go in." "Your Excellency, you go first." ******. While the group in Tse province was having discussions through the night, Fan province had already received the proclamation. This was not the first time that King Yi had received a denunciation which served as a declaration of war as well from Tse province, but the few times it happened last year had been all talk and no action. Shenzequan did not have the intention to mobilize his troops to fight him, so he took the proclamation this time as an empty threat too and did not think much of it. Fan province's yamen had been expanded and renovated anew. King Yi housed all the gold, silver, and treasures he plundered from the two prefectures here and called it the state treasury. He claimed to be saving them to purchase grains and lands after spring, but in reality, he had appropriated them for himself and was using it to fund his debauchery. With the snow as heavy as it was this year, the number of common folks from the two prefectures who either starved or froze to death was beyond measure. A few days ago, the residential dwellings in multiple locations had also collapsed and crushed even more people to death. The lower ranks reported this to King Yi, but he had turned a deaf ear to them all and continued to indulge in the company of women. A bunch of those who had stood by King Yi's side from the very beginning of his revolt had been slaughtered in the fight for crop fields, and the majority of people who still remained were bandits from the two prefectures. When King Yi was establishing his position, he had once promised the scholars of both prefectures that he would change the current situation of the prefectures and restore the livelihoods of its people. But he wielded his blade the moment he took control over the yamen and slain the scholars who remonstrated against him. Many of the commoners of the two prefectures, upon finding themselves in a perilous situation, attempted to flee under cover of the snow, but they were executed on the spot by the soldiers under King Yi's command. Even if someone was brought back alive, they would be branded with a mark on the chest and set aside in Fan province's prison as animals for King Yi's winter hunts. It was after the third night watch at midnight, and King Yi with his potbelly, lay on satin cushions drinking himself drunk under the music of reed pipes. He lifted his golden cup high and said, "Fill it up." Two scantily clad women on both sides of him poured the wine for him. King Yi held his arm up and muttered, "Keep pouring. Keep pouring." The red pomegranate-like wine spilled over the rim of the cup, and the woman twisted aside to cover her face seemingly bashfully as King Yi roared with unbridled laughter. King Yi had long lost his sense of propriety and was now exposing himself with a public display of his degenerate, gluttonous self. Due to his obesity, he had difficulty moving, and he even had to open his arms as wide as he could to hug the women by his sides. Qiang was sitting in the seat to the bottom left of King Yi. She was checking out a new beau who had dashing looks, holding her pipe for her. As she smoked, her eyes darted down below his waist. "I escaped death by the skin of my teeth and fled back from Dun province. What will your highness reward me with? I think this one will do. He is going to be incredible after a period of training from me." This man was a handsome one with an unpowdered face, broad shoulders, and a narrow waist. Kneeling before Qiang, he raised his head to look up at her upon hearing her. The expression in his eyes was sultry and frank, and it was so titillating that it sent an electrifying tingle through Qiang's body and made her heart itch. King Yi, being too obese, needed the woman serving him to help him turn his head. He cast a glance at that man and sneered. "You have got a good eye. Do you know who this is?" Qiang lifted a foot to step on the man's chest, feeling the solidness underneath. "I've never seen such a character. Honey dear, would you like to leave with me?" King Yi roared with laughter and hissed maliciously, "His surname is Huo. He's Huo Lingyun, the eldest legitimate son of Huo Qing, the garrison troops commander of Deng province, who was bitten to death by dogs. Back then, when I wanted to take over Deng province as its master, Huo Qing would rather die than yield and killed my second younger brother during the battle. After his capture, I had him tortured for 7 days and 7 nights before dumping him at the hunting grounds to let the dogs tear him to pieces. Qiang uttered an "oh, my" in surprise and moved in to scrutinize Huo Lingyun. With a cackle, she said, "Then your highness is truly a magnanimous one to have kept him by your side and raised him to be so well built." "I initially wanted to kill him," Qiang said contemptuously. "He looks the part of a gentleman but he's as timid as a mouse." When he saw his old man being eaten by the dogs, he immediately kneeled down to hug my thighs and begged me to spare his life. For that, he was even willing to slave like an ox or a horse for me, so I kept him by my side as a dog. Qiang started feeling up Huo Lingyun, and Huo Lingyun showed her an ingratiating smile. She tenderly gave him a push and said, "Good dog, show me exactly how obedient you are." Qiang tossed aside his golden cup and said, "There is nothing he can't do, and he holds up pretty well. I sent him over to Chief Fang for 7 or 8 days to have fun with, and he was still alive when he returned." The expression on Qiang's face frosted over. Old Fang the Ninth is already so advanced in age, and yet he's still so despicable. He can't even control his bowels anymore, yet he still wants to be with me over a man. Darling, look at me. I'm much better looking than old Fang. It must have been hard on you serving an old monkey like him. Huo Lingyun's chest heaved. He was in a partial state of undress, with his clothes secured around his waist. He was all docile and obedient as Qiang came pressing in towards him. The view in the interior if this hall was already lewd and was made even more obscene by the whiny moan Qiang let loose at being fondled by Huo Lingyun. She fell back onto the cushion and motioned for him to continue. Qiang, having overindulged in carnal pleasures, was presently only bothered with drinking his wine. He loved wine as he did his life, and he drank himself bloated in this rowdy ruckus as he rested upon the tender, fragrant bodies of the women serving him while they massaged his shoulders and kneaded his legs. His snores boomed like thunder. The snow outside the hall fell for half the night, and the people inside were all dead asleep by the time it was almost dawn. Qiang, with his arms spread out, exhaled stale air that reeked of wine. Huo Lingyun wiped down his body and cleaned up the sweat. He looked at Qiang, who was a short distance away from him amidst the undulating snores, then soundlessly stepped over the others to make his way over to squat down next to Qiang's pillow. Qiang did not like to bring his guards along when he was making merry. He feared death, so the guards armed with their blades, all had to stand outside the doors. Huo Lingyun had served as a plaything under Qiang's command for an entire 6 months, suffering all kinds of humiliation imaginable before he managed to get such an opportunity. He looked at Qiang as if he was looking at those dogs that had bitten his father to death. 3 soft knocks sounded, right outside the door. And that was when Huo Lingyun knew that the matter had been done. He did not stand up, however. Instead, he patted Qiang's cheek at the same time he picked up the cushion. Qiang's snores were cut short in his throat. He reached out a hand to brush away that empty golden cup, and as the cup clattered noisily to the floor, he opened his eyes. On seeing Huo Lingyun, he broke out in a cold sweat and reproved in a stern voice, "Get away." Huo Lingyun had already burst into action. He ruthlessly held down the cushion over Qiang's head. Qiang struggled violently, and the flailing of his thick limbs startled the others in the hall awake. Huo Lingyun held down that pasty flesh with pudgy rolls of fat. Under the cushion, Qiang was still gasping for breath. Qiang woke up, but she did not realize what was happening around her. The terrified Qiang shouted in a muffled voice in between heavy breathing, Men, save me." Huo Lingyun started laughing even as Qiang was struggling. He suddenly released his grip, abandoning his attempt to smother the latter. Qiang tried to scramble up in a panic from under his hands, but he was too fat, and he sank into the cushion, shouting himself hoarse, "Men! Come quick!" Huo Lingyun touched something from the bunched clothes around his waist. He followed after Qiang. Qiang crawled on the ground naked like a maggot as he gradually came to a realization amidst his shouts. It was as if the guards outside the door were all dead, and they were indeed dead. King Yi started to cry. He moved his obese body with stacks and rolls of fat and prostrated himself at Huo Lingyun's feet. Ling! Lingyun! He reached out to pull over a woman and shoved her towards Huo Lingyun. Don't kill me, and I'll give you Fan Province. I'll give you everything that's mine. I'll even give you the title of King Yi, too. With his chest heaving, Huo Lingyun bent his head down and yanked King Yi by the hair to drag him towards himself. King Yi did not understand how the situation could have changed so abruptly. Everyone from top to bottom in Fan Province was still at his command before he had fallen asleep. He kicked out his legs and squealed loudly like a pig being slaughtered. It finally hit Qiang what was happening. She fumbled for her clothing in a fluster. Seeing Huo Lingyun dragging King Yi towards herself, she hurriedly shook her head. It has nothing to do with me. Nothing to do. A blast rang out at this instant, and the thunderous sound of something blowing up on impact roared in Qiang's ears and made her ears buzz. She cried out involuntarily, her eyes opened widely as she froze in place, stupefied, and with a face splattered full of red and white filth. The area between Huo Lingyun's thumb and the index finger was hurting intensely from the recoil of the blunderbuss. The burning sensation thrilled him. King Yi's head was just like a watermelon being trampled into pulp. Deadly silence descended upon the hall, and then Qiang suddenly shrieked out loud and crawled on all fours like a madwoman. Clutching her clothes, she ran barefoot across the hall and lunged at the doors. The doors opened, but Qiang stepped back and fell on her buttocks, her eyes on the doorway where there were firearms everywhere. You abducted women for him. Huo Lingyun stood in the gloomy darkness and sent the splattered gore from King Yi into his mouth. He promptly spat it out. As he stared at Qiang, he said in an icy voice, "You even reared mastiffs you held in captive for him." Qiang shook her head and covered her body as she scooted across the floor. She heard the sound of barking and saw those mastiffs boring their way out between the gaps of the human's legs. Huo Lingyun stepped on King Yi's corpse and said as though he was sizing up meat on the chopping board, "All of you ought to get a taste of it." Qiang's eyes widened. She wanted to run, but she had gone weak in the knees. She could only watch helplessly as those mastiffs broke free of their chains and pounced on her. At the same time she screamed uncontrollably. Under the sound of the mastiffs tearing and devouring flesh, Huo Lingyun draped his wide-sleeved robe over his shoulders. He picked up the proclamation that King Yi had flung away and promptly proceeded to crumple it. End chapter. Qiang Jin Jiu. Book 3, Drunk in Wild Songs. Chapter 196, Old Man. After breakfast the next day, Xiao Qiye put on his heavy armor with the intent to head over to the Biwen hunting grounds. Shenzhequan only slept a little for the past few days, and it was only until last night that he got a good night's sleep, so much so that he was still a tad lethargic when he stood under the eaves to see Xiao Qiye off. The snow had ceased today, and the sun shone so brightly that the courtyard was practically glittering. Xiao Qiye let Meng perch on him and turned back to talk to Shenzhequan, only to see Shenzhequan standing sleepily in front of the door with an unhappy expression. "When will you be back?" Shenzhequan asked. Xiao Qiye undid the chain on Meng's talons, and Meng promptly made to pounce on Shenzhequan. Xiao Qiye held it down and answered, "I'll try my best to return earlier. If anything's the matter, send someone to call for me." Being bathed in the sunlight also made Shenzhequan sparkle. Avoiding the rays, he squinted his expressive eyes and called out, "Ah yeah." Xiao Qiye made to kiss this little tease which startled Shenzhequan. Capitalizing on his height advantage, Xiao Qiye raised his arm against the door frame, and when Shenzhequan stepped back, led him back with a hand. The hanging screen covered the back of his head, although Xiao Qiye did not bother with moving it out of the way. Shenzhequan took a kiss to the mouth. Chen Yang was busy mulling over how to make the escort arrangements when they were about to return to Bianbo camp and was not paying attention to the movement on the other end. Gu Jin saw the hanging screen swing, and then both men were gone. He took off his gloves and said, "The prefectural lord and master," unable to find the right words. Gu Jing could only look at Chen Yang and gave an indication with his eyes. Chen Yang knew Gu Jing had been alarmed by Shen Zequin's discussions in the hall last night, so he closed the book and looked over, too. After watching for a moment, he said, "Master has had it rough fighting battles on the battlefields after what happened with the former prince of Libei. He may seem fine now, but I fear that his heart is still healing like the wound on his back. It's a good thing for them to stick together to each other like glue." After that specific night, many people wanted to coddle Xiao Qiye. They kept away from the heavy snow as much as they could and watched Xiao Qiye cautiously, as if Xiao Qiye had already lost his strength and was now no more than a fragile vase. Shen Zequin was just the opposite. He said not a single word of consolation to Xiao Qiye, but the expression in his eyes spoke volumes of his dependence on Xiao Qiye. It was as if he would resent the weather for being cold and fault the medicine for being bitter if he so much as stepped away from Xiao Qiye by even half a step. In fact, Shen Zequin was revealing another layer of meaning behind his extreme reliance on Xiao Qiye, and that was the fact that Xiao Qiye was actually strong. Xiao Qiye did not need to be treated as porcelain as he was iron, he was steel. He was also Shen Zequin's Hanjian Mountains. And this was how Xiao Qiye responded to him, too. Before the discussion of official affairs, Shen Zequin had Fei Sheng summon Gao Zhongxiang, who stood before the study waiting for Shen Zequin. When Shen Zequin arrived, he had him dispense with the formalities. "I had someone take your measurements last night. The winter clothes will be delivered to your residence in a few days. It's currently cold. Do you still have charcoal fire in your house?" Gao Zhongxiang was formerly an advisor to Han Jin. When he first came to Tse province, he knew that Shen Zequin would not employ him, and that was why he had taken such an ill-advised step. It was only because he came highly recommended by Yao Wenyu that he could get a job in the yamen. But Shen Zequin rarely spoke to him, and this, in turn, made Gao Zhongxiang somewhat terrified to be speaking to him now. Whenever Gao Zhongxiang was nervous, he would sweat and stutter, an unfortunate conditioned effect of being ridiculed too much when he was in Dan City. He wiped away the beads of sweat, his chin lowered so low it was about to jab into his chest as he muttered, "It's as your lordship admonished." "Your lordship?" The advisors in the room were all already in place. Kong Ling was presently standing under the eaves waiting for Shen Zequin to enter. Gao Zhongxiang knew he was clumsy with words, and so he got even more worked up with anxiety as he sweated so much as he tried to finish his sentence. Shen Zequin remembered how bold and spirited Gao Zhongxiang had been when he kneeled in the heavy rain a year ago to denounce the eunuch faction, so he listened in all seriousness for him to finish saying his piece before he added, "You are not married at present. If the monthly salary from the yamen is insufficient, just let the local government know." Gao Zhongxiang initially thought that Shen Zequin detested him and that it was only on Yao Wenyu's account that Shen Zequin did not voice it out. He did not expect Shen Zequin to be so amicable today. For a moment, his emotions got the better of him and he choked out a sob. "It's all thanks to the grace and kindness of the prefectural lord that I could have a job in the yamen. Moreover, the salary is issued on time every month. How can I take more?" With even more gentleness, Shen Zequin said, "You are also a man of letters in my employ. It will be ill-advised for you to keep on belittling yourself any more." A multitude of emotions welled up in Gao Zhongxiang's heart as he wiped his tears. Shen Zequin was willing to use him and even respected him. As the saying went, a gentleman would die for the one who understood and appreciated him on his own merits. He was truly willing to serve under Shen Zequin. He was about to voice some words of gratitude, but Shen Zequin raised his hand to stop him and gestured for him to keep up pace as they headed for the study. Tse province initially planned to borrow a general for their mobilization of troops to Fan province this time, but seeing as King Yi had long-standing public resentment stacked against him and that Fan province was internally empty, Shenzhequan did not borrow one from the Libei armored cavalry. Instead, he appointed the commander of the Tse province garrison troops, Yin Chang. This Yin Chang was a high-ranking military officer of the Tse province garrison troops before the defeat of the Zongbo troops. After its commander died in battle, Zhou Gui promoted him to the post. Before Shenzhequan came to Tse province, Yin Chang was a one-man army commander. This man was about the same age as Ji Gang. He was an avid drinker with a full beard, and he hated taking a bath the most in life. For this reason, he appeared particularly unkempt. He could be considered to be kindred spirits with Jiao Tianya. Before Jiao Tianya quit drinking, they often drank together. Looking hesitant, Kong Ling said, Yin Chang is advanced in age, and he has not stepped into the battlefield for several years. I'm afraid he is not up to the task if he's sent into battle. Surprisingly enough, Zhou Gui did not agree this time. A veteran general has the advantages of a veteran general. If the prefectural lord is willing to assign him to deploy troops, he will definitely do his best. Other than Yin Chang, Shenzhequan unexpectedly piped up, Fei Sheng will also tag along during the deployment of troops to Fan province this time. Yao Wenyu's wide sleeves bulged from the crouching cat underneath. He covered it with his hand and said, now that the bridle paths are accessible, the military provisions can be supplied by both Tse province and Sha province. It takes only 1 day to reach Fan province. That's right. Shenzhequan set his fan on his lap. He looked at the others. Time is of the essence now. It's imperative that we obtain Fan province and Deng province. We will have to fight a quick battle for this one. A chorus of acknowledgement in the affirmative rose, and with that, everyone began to discuss in hushed tones about the arrangements to be made for filling in the vacancies in Fan province and Deng province's yamen when the time came. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Yin Chang deployed his troops as he was commanded to, while Fei Sheng went along for the ride with 40 Jin Wei as part of the entourage. Fei Sheng had only met Yin Chang just before setting off. This commander's hair was even whiter than Ji Gang's. He was not at all tall, and he had a drunkard's nose that was a bright shade of red. Fei Sheng paid his respects to Yin Chang before the horse, although the latter seemed to have yet to sober up from his inebriation as he mumbled, "Rise." Fei Sheng had specially taken a leaf out of Jiao Tianya's book and brought along some fine wine to show his respect to Yin Chang. Yin Chang opened it up for a sniff and shouted out "Awesome," in a voice so booming that Fei Sheng nearly lost his grip on the reins from the force of it. Seeing as Yin Chang was about to drink the wine now, Fei Sheng hurriedly raised his hands to stop him. With an apologetic smile, he said, "Elder Yin, please hold on. This wine is strong, and it'd be hard to travel if you're drunk. Let's wait for us to return in triumph, and I shall play host and drink with you into oblivion." Yin Chang twitched his nose. While Fei Sheng was talking, he had already taken several consecutive gulps of the wine as though he was starving. The wine relaxed him all over, making his nose even redder. He breathed out several puffs of hot air and patted Fei Sheng heavily on the shoulder. Loudly, he said, "Lad, there's no need for you to worry. I've traversed Zongbo for over 10 years, and I can find my way around even with my eyes closed. This wine sobers me up the more I drink it. It's a great incentive for me in this journey." Fei Sheng estimated Yin Chang's age. He was pretty tempted to leave right now had this battle not been to take down Fan province. Which part of this senile old man looks like he can fight a battle? Although this was what he was thinking deep down, he still said with a smile, "Sure thing, I'm at your command on this assignment." He led the horse over to Yin Chang and asked, "Shall I help you up the horse?" Yin Chang tied the wine bag to his waist, patted it, and grinned mischievously at Fei Sheng. "Heh heh, just you watch. I'll get on myself." "Whoa." Seeing Yin Chang's foot slip off the saddle, the sharp-eyed Fei Sheng deftly supported the old man and hastened to say, "Steady there, man." Fei Sheng, in holding Yin Chang, realized that this old man boasted a pair of thick, sturdy legs that weighed a ton. He helped Yin Chang onto his horse, finding this old man to be quite the character. Who knows, maybe he was truly capable. But not long after, Yin Chang felt sleepy on his horse and almost slid off the back of the horse numerous times. It was all thanks to Fei Sheng for having someone keep an eye on him that he did not tumble off. Chse province was not that far from Fan province. It was just a 2 days journey or so, yet Fei Sheng was on tenterhooks the entire way, fearing that the commanding general would first fall to his death before they had even made it to Fan province. Their journey was daunting but uneventful, and they finally arrived at their destination. After setting up camp, Fei Sheng waited for Yin Chang to make military plans for the siege. But never in his wildest imagination would he expect this old man to lie down and fall asleep the moment he entered the tent. In no time, his snores reverberated throughout the tent like claps of thunder, and no amount of noise they made in their attempts to wake him up could stir him. Fei Sheng stood outside of the tent and looked all around him. All the soldiers from the Chse province garrison troops were new recruits. Yin Chang had not even arranged for a night patrol squad, and as such, they were all stumbling about like fools without so much as a dignified air to them. How the hell are they going to fight this damn battle? Fei Sheng spat, sorely tempted to write a letter to Shen Zequan right there and then. In the end, the Jinyi Wei could only stand in for them and conduct the night patrol themselves. Fei Sheng guarded the camp until the day broke. Both of his eyes were bloodshot as he watched Yin Chang step out of his tent with renewed vigor. He forced a smile on his stiff, frozen face. "Elder Yin, you sure had a good sleep, huh?" Fei Sheng rubbed his hands and feet together. "So, when do you think we should lay siege to the city?" Yin Chang sat down and poured wine from the wine bag, although he only drank 2 small cups. "No rush. No rush." But the command Fei Sheng had received was to fight a quick battle, so he said, "There has been no wind or snow for the past few days. If we miss the opportunity, the battle will be much harder to fight." Yin Chang sipped the wine and looked in Fan province's direction. His beard shook as he smacked his lips to savor the wine. "What cha in such a rush for? I don't think it's time yet." Fei Sheng guessed that this old man was afraid to fight battles. The man called Yin Chang did not exist in the Jinyi Wei's records, and when Fei Sheng had been gathering intelligence and taking records, he had flipped through Chse province's archives. Yin Chang did not have any meritorious achievements prior to the case of the troops defeat. The reason he could be promoted to the position of commander was because the commanders of the Chse province garrison troops were all dead. That, and the fact that he had the fortune to meet a nice fellow like Zhou Gui who promoted him on the basis of his seniority. Yin Chang had no sense of presence even after he was promoted to the commander position. He was drinking when Zhou Gui and Kong Ling reclaimed the wastelands, and he was still drinking when the bandits of Mount Luo led by Lei Jing harassed Chse province time and time again. Even when the Chse province garrison troops had been re-established, he still seemed like an ornament merely there for show. He had never played a role in any capacity at all. Shen Zequan's decision to deploy Yin Chang to war this time was because Chse province did indeed lack generals, along with the fact that Fan province was easy to take down. There was no difficulty for him to contend with. The Chse province garrison troops needed an opportunity to stand on their own feet, and this was a good chance because it did not require a very powerful commanding general to lead. All he needed to do was to go with the flow and capture Fan province when the right opportunity arose, and that would have sufficed. As Fei Sheng thought things over, he saw Yin Chang sit down opposite him, kick off his boots, and start to scratch a foot. Fei Sheng wanted to speak up but was too overwhelmed by the stench of the old man's feet to say a word. He hurriedly stood up and cupped his fists towards Yin Chang before running off to the side for some fresh air. Yin Chang wiggled his toes and picked the crevices clean. He had gone without bathing for almost 2 months now, and even he himself could no longer stand his own stench as he held his foot and muttered to himself. *******. Harigo was presently staying at the Biwen military drill grounds. Shenzhen had left all the scorpions here. Initially, the scorpions did not get along with the Tse province garrison troops and were constantly subjected to verbal attacks. It was only after the Jinyi Wei mediated that both sides did not come to blows. Haragu had only just finished cleaning himself up from showering bareback despite it being such a cold day today. On his way back from the well, he saw the gates of the camp open. Dark and dreary suits of heavy armor swept in, stomping over the mud concealed beneath the thin snow and sending them splattering and splashing all over Haragu when they passed by him. He cursed under his breath and wiped his face, only to see that the horse at the head had already turned around and was presently staring at him. Haragu recognized Lang Tao Shuijin. He raised the wooden basin in his hand, towing the line as he greeted, "Hello, Second Master Xiao." Xiao Qiye was so heavily armored up that not even his eyes were revealed. He cut an overwhelmingly intimidating figure with his tall, strapping stature on horseback. Lang Tao Shuijin kept closing in towards Haragu, leaving the latter with no choice but to raise his head to look at Xiao Qiye. "The prefectural lord said to keep me." Haragu was still wearing his cloth shoes like slippers, with heels treading down on the backs. He scanned the surrounding Libe armored cavalry, who was eyeing him menacingly, and looked at Xiao Qiye again. "I think he's right. I'll give you the horses today." Xiao Qiye's voice was low and deep. "Bring your soldiers to the military drill grounds." Haragu understood what Xiao Qiye meant to do. In the past few days, he had been training here with the Libe armored cavalry. He put down the wooden basin and wore his shoes properly. "I can also bring along my iron hammers, if you would try out our new military formation." Lang Tao Shuijin snorted hot puffs of air. The heavily armored horse inched closer once more, forcing Haragu to retreat backward. "New military formation?" Xiao Qiye asked. Haragu took a step back and immediately explained himself. "I learned it from an old man." He raised a finger to point at his nose. "An old man with a red nose." End chapter.